Hello everyone, I'm Alicia. For this tutorial, I'm going to do some wire work. I'm going to do a two-part video. In part 1, I'm going to show you how to make these wire rings with a large bead, and in part 2, which will be a continuance of part 1, so make sure you watch this entire video, I'm going to show you how to make these button rings. I wore this one in my last video, and I was asked to make a tutorial on it. So I decided that I would show how to make the ones with the bead first, and then in part 2 I'm going to show you how to do it with a button. Now you can use any size button you want. You can use shank buttons, which is this one here. You can use 2-hole buttons, 4-hole buttons, and you can either use one button or you can stack them like I did. I have 3 buttons on these here. And if you have a button that is really huge and you like big rings, then you might be able to do 4 buttons in your stack. So let's get started. Before I make a ring, I want to talk about wire with you guys. I know that y'all watch me all around the world, and sometimes it can be hard to find certain materials where you live. When I first started doing wire work, I could only find craft wire and it tarnished. This here is the craft wire, and this is the non-tarnished craft wire. And you can see that this is much darker than this one. This is actually worse off camera. It's pretty brown. But these days, they sell non-tarnished wire. I bought this artistic wire at Tuesday Morning. If you follow me on Facebook, then you already know about that store. I bought this tarnish resistant craft wire on Amazon. Both of these wires are pretty good, but if you don't have a store that carries them where you live, then you're going to have to order them online. And if for some reason you can't order them online, there is a third option, a hardware. Now, some of the wires they sell at craft stores are aluminum wire. So this is aluminum 16 gauge wire. I found this giant spool of 20 gauge wire at Harbor Freight. It was with the welding stuff, near the regular wire. So if you look up here, you can see that it says welding systems. I like this wire because it is soft, easy to work with, and it doesn't tarnish like some of the other wires. This wire works great with rings, and if I mess up, it's no big deal because this wire is inexpensive and I have a ton of it. So if you look at the bottom, this is where the wire starts on the spool, and it comes out to here, so that is a ton of wire. I'm probably never going to run out. It says right here that it's actually a little over a pound. Now, I saw this same wire at Home Depot. It was a different name brand, so Chicago Electric Welding System, that's the name brand that I got here at Harbor Freight, but at Home Depot it was a different name brand. It was also a lot cheaper at Home Depot, which I was shocked because I thought Harbor Freight was supposed to sell cheaper, more expensive, inexpensive tools. Now, this wire is good for wire wrapping, but it doesn't seem to be that good for jump rings because it is too soft. The jump rings open up. Now, if it was a thicker gauge, like maybe the 18 gauge or 16 gauge wire, the jump rings are probably fine. Now, here is a piece that I did just playing around with paper beads to see how good the wire wrapped loops were with this wire, and they turned out awesome. So this is what they look like, and I love this because it's not going to tarnish because it's aluminum wire. I want to show you the color difference. This wire here is the craft wire that's tarnishing. You can see it's brown looking. And this is the non-tarnish, and this is the aluminum wire. But look how much silver this wire is compared to this one. Now, this is softer wire, and it's going to make it easier for you to work with. If you're a beginner and you want to get into wire work, and I recommend that you start out with aluminum wire because it's much easier to work with. Here is the list of materials. You're going to need 18 inches of 20 gauge wire, and this was the craft wire, non-tarnished, and this is the aluminum wire. Now, this can make up to a size 10 ring. If you want to make a ring bigger than size 10, you're probably going to want to use 20 inches of this wire instead of 18. You're going to need a large bead, and I'm probably going to use that one there. I like using flat beads, but you can experiment with different shapes and sizes. You're also going to need a ring mandrel, and you're going to need a nylon hammer. This side's nylon, this side's rubber. You're going to need chain nose pliers, and you're going to need wire cutters. Now, I tried to keep this really cheap to make. Like I said, the wire you can get from a hardware store. This ring mandrel I actually got at Walmart. It was less than $5, and it's a pretty good ring mandrel. It's solid. This I got at AC Moore, but I saw the same one at Walmart. So this was less than $5 and this was less than $5. So it's not going to cost you a lot of money to make these rings, and you're going to be able to make a ton of them. Let's get started. So I already cut my wire, and now I'm going to put my bead on. My bead has two different sides. This side's prettier, so I have to make sure this stays in the top. So I'm going to slide my bead on, and I have to make sure that this is centered in my wire, because I have to make sure that these are even, and when I do this, when I get to the end, I'm not going to have a lot of excess wire. So there's not going to be a whole lot of waste this way. So I'm going to put my ends together and try to find the center, which looks like it's right here. So that's about center. Now, I'm going to make a size 8, so I have to make it one size bigger than the size I need. So it's a little hard to see it, but there's numbers on here. So right here, I'm going to have it a size 9. I'm going to wrap one wire around this way, and wrap my other wire this way. I'm going to pull it with my pliers to make sure it's even. Now, you have to pay attention to get the band flat, like this one. This ring here, the band is flat. You have to make sure that the wire on the top stays in the top. So this is my top wire, and this is my bottom. So I'm going to go down with this wire, and I'm going to go around. I'm going to do the same on this side, make sure this stays in the top. I'm going to go around here and back up. Now, make sure that you stay at the size that you need, because this is going to be moving up and down. And I'm going to use my pliers to tighten my wire. I need these two wires to go underneath of this bead, so to push them underneath, just like this. Keep it nice and tight. And sometimes you have to press the sides of this down, so I'm just going to press this down like this. You can see that it bent. This side bent too. This way our wire is going to wrap around the ring better. So I'm going to wrap it again, just a little bit, just like this. Bring this side this way, underneath this bead. Bunch these wire up together, so it's like this. I'm going to pull it again with my pliers to make sure it's tight. So it's a lot of playing around. Each ring is going to be a little different. I'm going to bring this closer underneath. I'm almost ready to wrap it. I'm going to make sure it's tight. Okay, now I'm going to do one wrap. I'm going to do a wrap on this side now. I'm going to pull this one with my pliers. Okay, now I'm going to do another wrap. So I'm wrapping this around here, wrapping this one around. So now I can let go of this because it's keeping it from coming undone. So pull this again. I'm going to check it to make sure it's going against. Yep, it's doing good. Pull it, pull it. So I want about 1.5 inches to 1 inch on the wire here and here, so I can wrap it around the ring band. So I'm going to wrap it again. I'm going to wrap this side again. Pull it again. Okay, so this is good. So I'm going to make this wire straight, and I'm going to bend this wire this way. Alright, so I could maybe go around and wrap it one more time, but I'm going to leave it here for now. like this. And pull this side. So this ring band wires are stacked against each other. They're straight, and they are splitting apart, but that's what our hammer is going to do. It's going to make them come closer together. So now I'm going to take this off the mandrel. It's on here good. And I'm going to bend this wire like this. And try not to bend it in half, because if you do, it's going to make the wire weak and it's going to break. So I'm going to go through here. And I'm going to tie, or not tie knots. I'm doing wire work, not beading. I'm going to wrap this around. I'm going to use my pliers to keep my ring band flat. So there's one wrap, and I'm going to squish it. And press it up. Squish it. And I'm going to go back through here again. Okay, and I'm going to wrap it again. So I like to do 3 to 4 wraps, so this is pretty good. If you see it starting to make spaces, you just take your pliers and push it up, and it covers that space. So now I'm going to cut my wire, and you can cut your wire on the top if you want, so you can do another loop up and then cut your wire in the middle if you're worrying about it poking your finger, but I never had problems with it poking my finger. Usually when I bring it up to the top and cut it at the top, it snags my clothes and stuff, so I like to cut it underneath, but some people like to do it the other way, so it's up to you and how you want to do it. So I'm going to cut it underneath, just like that, and it's in the center, and I'm going to take my pliers and flatten it, and I'm going to press it down into the band so it doesn't poke me. So now I'm going to put this back on the mandrel and make sure these are staying straight, and they are. Okay. I'm going to push this up a little bit more because it looks like they're sliding. So flattening this part here makes your wires stay flat against each other. So now I'm going to do this side. I'm going to bend this around my finger and get it to go into the ring. I'm going to flatten these wires here. And go through. Okay, I'm going to go around again. I'm going to go back through my ring hole. Try not to bend it in half. Alright, I'm going to do one more wrap. Push it up and flatten it. Now I'm going to cut it again, just in the center. Bend that wire down. Alright. Alright, so it looks pretty good. Now we're ready to hammer it. Make sure that these wires aren't going to poke you. Just rub on the inside. So now you can see that when I use 18 inches of wire that I have very little waste left. And sometimes when people make these rings, they use like 2 feet of wire and there's a lot of waste left. Now if you're wrapping it a lot around the bead, going around and around and around, a lot of that wire will be underneath here, but with this bead and how I did it, I don't need that much wire wrapped around it. So 18 inches was good, and like I said, if you're going to make a ring bigger than a size 10, you want to use like 20 inches of wire. Alright, so now I'm going to show you how to harden your wire, hammer it with the nylon hammer, and also bring these closer together so there's no gaps. Sometimes there still will be just a little bit of gaps left. So I wanted a size 8 ring, and I had to make it one size bigger by putting it in the 9. And now when I put my ring on, it stops right at 8. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hammer this wire and harden it. I'm going to go all the way around the ring. Make sure this is slid down as far as it can go. Okay, I think that's good enough. Make sure that it's slid down, like I said, as far as you can go. And I'm going to try to straighten these wires out more. So I'm going to hold the mandrel like this, and I'm going to slide my hammer down and hit these wires until they really stack. So just like that. Now I'm going to take it back off the ring mandrel, flip it over, and hit this side. Make sure this bead stays in the middle. I'm going to flip it over one more time to get that gap out. That's pretty good. Alright, so now our ring is done. It looks great too. So this is the end of part 1 of my wire wrap bead ring tutorial. I'm going to leave a link to part 2 in the description bar below the video. In part 2 you'll learn how to make the wire rings with buttons. So please like this video, leave me a comment, subscribe if you want to see more videos, and follow me on Facebook. Thanks for watching.